Um, Hi, my name is Christian Chacon. I'm currently the education program coordinator here at the Mesoamerican Permaculture Institute. And I'm also the director program in the Guatemala curriculum here with IPSL. I'm here living in one of the most beautiful lakes in the world, in Lake Atitlan, right in imap's offices.
So, Christian, as you know, right now in the United States, in cities all over the countries, in towns, villages, there are millions of people representing all races and ethnicities marching to demand an end to racial injustice, police brutality, and systemic racism in our society. And I know that you have been following the news here in the United States. And so we're curious about what's going on in Guatemala and are curious to know if you see similar sentiments or issues in your own country. And if so, how do you think Guatemalans are viewing right now the Black Lives Matter movement?
Okay, well, since we have a lot of U.S. influence, not only in Guatemala, but in all Mesoamerica, I think that we all know what is happening. Maybe not totally sure about what is happening, but at least we have an idea. Because, you know, all the media never says exactly what is happening, only part of the events. But yeah, definitely we are receiving some news, mostly about the violence that is around the movement. There's something that the core of the movement is not something that is going to are being spread that much. There's only saying, oh, there's a lot of riots, there's a lot of violence because of the police, and all the movement as well is trying to change things. But yeah, like the fundamental ideas of the Black Lives Matters movement are not that well known in this part, because we, at least the ones that we have been following a little bit more all the issue, we know that it's not something that just started a couple of months ago. It's something that it's been there for many years, and there's a lot of work behind the movement. So it's hard to generalize, to say that all Guatemala has the same information. I think that the mainstream media is just showing the riots and not promoting a reflection towards the Black Lives Matters, you know?
Right, right. And explaining the movement.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you see similar issues around race in Guatemala?
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of unbalance in the power relationships here in Guatemala as well. Because at the end of the day, I think that most of the social issues are because of a power imbalance. So with race, it's pretty much the same. So it doesn't matter if it's the Black Lives Matters, it doesn't matter if it's the indigenous life matter. I think that there's always a power relationship imbalance. With the race is something that is pretty obvious, you know. So we tend to marginalize people because how they look, how they speak. So with race, it's like right there, you know, it's in front of our faces. So all the imbalance and all the poverty is being the ones that are suffering the most here in Guatemala are the indigenous communities. There's a lot of undernourishment. There's a lot of exploitation. They have been stealing their land for many centuries, you know. So it's pretty much the same, just with a different face, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so, and to that, I mean, one of the reasons we started to collaborate with you guys, I mean, there are many reasons, and to develop particular courses was because we wanted to highlight these themes. We wanted to bring a lot of these social movements and efforts to correct that imbalance that you were referring to, by educating people, you know, our students who go and stay with you. So can you talk a little bit about the course that you offer in collaboration with IPSL, and a little bit about what are the main goals or outcomes that you hope for in the course?
Yeah, right now we are running the One Health course. That the main goal is to reflect on how health is a holistic issue, right? It's not just the health of the body, it's not just the health of the land or the environment. It's everything is interconnected, since everything is a system, right? So the main goal of this course is to make explicit these relationships, not only with our own bodies, but also with the environment, and of course, the global agenda, because politics are also part of health, you know, so how everything is interconnected. And doing that reflection also requires having a critical perspective, not just in the theory that we are getting exposed in universities, but also in public policies, for example. Also being pretty critical with how we are understanding history, because the issues that we are living right now, they are not just popping up. You know, it's something that have been happening for many years and for many generations. So right now we are living the results of an historic process. So the course also tries to address those historical perspectives, focus mostly on the Guatemalan reality, that we know that there's a lot of undernourishment, for example. There's a lot of deaths because of illnesses that could be easily prevented. Um, and, and there's a traditional medicine, the Mayan medicine as well, that many times is not being taken, being taken seriously. You know, it's no, that's just witchery. That are just a bunch of lies. So we try to reflect as well. Why do we think that all that wisdom, all that ancient knowledge, it's also being dismissed? And other part of the course as well is analyzing the global relationships, because the reality here in Guatemala is not just Guatemala. You know, there's also global relationship between the global north and the global south. Here in Guatemala, the influence of the United States, it's pretty strong. It's pretty well known how the CIA have been doing experiments here, how the government is pushing some laws, the free trade agreement also have impacted the economy. So also reflecting on how those global relationships affects health, not just of humans, but that integral health, that holistic health that we call it One Health.
Awesome, thank you. Can you talk a little bit about who the main beneficiaries are of your work there in the community?
So we try to divide a little bit the impact in two main groups or two main categories. So one is the direct collaboration or the direct impact or the direct work that we do, and the other one is the indirect one. So with the direct impact that we have, it's working with the community for addressing a specific issue. For example, right now we are working towards food security. We are creating many food gardens with families, with rural families, mostly indigenous. Here in San Lucas, 90% of the population is indigenous. So we try to work mostly with indigenous families from San Lucas and from all the rural area, from the Atitlan Basin. And then the indirect one, it's the one that we do with groups that are not directly in land, or here in Guatemala, for example, or not just here in San Lucas. We also give some, I don't know if there are courses or workshop. I would like to call them like reflection process with different groups, for example, from the US, for example. They come here to learn, to share about their experience, but the ultimate goal of those spaces is to learn from this reality, to then be able to identify how my own context is impacting indirectly these other communities. So it's not like come here and help create the food garden. It's not just that. It's come here, learn, and then go back to your own context and try to change the dynamics that are provoking all the issues that are here in Guatemala, in this case. In collaboration with IPSL, right now we are offering two main courses. One is the One Health course, and the other one is the applications of Mayan cosmology in contemporary health systems. We will be super happy to having you here, not just in Guatemala, but also in the online courses, where we will be able to share a little bit about what we are doing, some of the reflections that we are constantly learning with the community and with the international community as well. So yeah, we'll be more than happy of having you here in Guatemala or in the online courses. And if you need any kind of information, feel free to write an email asking more about the programs, more about the institutions that are being represented in these courses. And yeah, looking forward to having you around.
So my name is Jos Valencia. I'm part of the team of Centro Catalina. We started Centro Catalina in 2010 as a project to promote the Spanish for foreign people in Colombia, Cartagena de Indias, and Medellin from 2016. I am also the program director of class program IPSL. I have lived 20 years in Switzerland, and I moved to Colombia since 5 years to work with Centro Catalina. I live in Cartagena, and I'm myself family from Afro-descendant family in Colombia. Okay, maybe Clara, you want to follow?
Okay, thank you, John. My name is Clara Isabel Lopez. I am from Colombia. I am talking right now from Medellin, that is the second city of Colombia. I am part of Centro Catalina and IPSL Alliance. I am lead or the director of Catalina class IPSL. That is a program that receives foreign students here in Cartagena, in Medellin, and give courses about Latin American studies.
Thank you. Joana?
En español.
Vale.
Soy Joana Pellicier, la directora de la Alianza Francesa de Cartagena de Indias, desde ahora 1 año y medio que vivo en Colombia, que llegué aquí.
Con Adrián.
Hey, hola, soy Adrián Ortega. Soy profesor de español como lengua extranjera y hago parte del equipo de Centro Catalina. Ya casi tengo 5 años de estar en la escuela y pues vivo en la ciudad de Cartagena y todo.
The topic. So in the United States right now, millions of people representing all races and ethnicities are marching in cities and towns across the country to demand an end to racial injustice, police brutality, and systematic racism. Do you see similar sentiments in your country? La puedo decir en español, si desean. En estos momentos en Estados Unidos, millones de personas que representan todas las razas y etnias están marchando a lo largo del país, en las ciudades y pueblos, exigiendo un fin a la injusticia racial, brutalidad policial y racismo sistemático. ¿Usted observa comportamientos o sentimientos similares en su país? Adrián, ¿tu punto de vista?
Sí, pues hay que ser claro. Yo pienso que Colombia es un país racista, es la realidad, sí. En general, sí, yo no me atrevo a decir que en cierta parte del país no hay racismo, en cierta parte se vive más que otros. Creo que en general Colombia es un país racista, pero, y no es algo desde ahora, podemos hablar desde los tiempos de la colonia, ¿sí? Si nosotros buscamos en la historia, creo que los años de colonia en comparación con el año de libertad que tenemos actualmente en Colombia, nunca van a superar todo el tiempo que hubo esclavización en el país, ¿ok? Entonces, siempre se está luchando contra eso. Ahora, la gente en Colombia normalmente dice que no hay racismo, que somos un país mestizo, que somos un resultado de todo lo que hay en Colombia, ¿verdad? Hay gente blanca, hay gente negra, hay indígenas particularmente, porque antes de los esclavos africanos ya estaban aquí los indígenas, y creo que tampoco se puede olvidar que en Colombia también hay racismo hacia la población indígena, ¿verdad? Entonces, cuando hablamos de racismo, lógicamente hay racismo, pero es un racismo más oculto, ¿sí? Es un racismo más oculto y lógicamente la gente nunca se atreve a decir que hay racismo en el país, o nunca nadie va a decir yo soy racista. Sí, es un tema muy complejo también. Tú no vas a decir nunca yo soy racista, pero hay muchas manifestaciones de racismo en comparación con cómo han pasado los años. Ahora, es muy diferente cómo podemos ver el movimiento desde Colombia en comparación con los Estados Unidos. Yo creo que en Estados Unidos hay más libertad, ¿sí? Y la gente, de alguna forma blanca, ¿sí? Con todo esto del asunto de la brutalidad policial, la gente a veces se siente más en la libertad de decir negro, ¿sí? O atacar a una persona negra. Digamos que en Colombia no pasa de esa forma, pero hay otras formas de ser racista y son un tipo de discurso que nos ha marcado toda la vida. Por ejemplo, yo soy un chico joven, pero yo he escuchado todo el tiempo en Cartagena y en otras partes del país, y también lo podemos ver en las telenovelas y en muchas cosas, comentarios simples como él es negrito, pero tu novio es negrito, ¿sí? Entonces, cositas tan pequeñas como esas que nuestros padres han reproducido todo el tiempo son formas todavía de ver de que existe el racismo en el país, pero lógicamente nadie te lo va a decir directamente. Ahora, cuando escuchamos cosas simples como el ejemplo del novio, pero tu novio es negrito, cuando escuchamos, tienes el pelo malo, ¿sí? Tienes el pelo malo, ¿sí? Es algo que a veces la gente se ríe, es algo que a veces la gente se ríe y lo toma como un chiste, pero es algo fuerte. Tienes el pelo malo porque lógicamente no tienes el pelo liso, ¿verdad? Eres negro, tienes arete y representas la maldad. O sea, si estás caminando en un barrio como el Centro Histórico, como Boca Grande, estoy seguro que debe pasar en cualquier parte del país, la gente te ve, y ejemplos simples como cuando una chica cruza el andén porque eres negro, ¿verdad? Son manifestaciones de que el racismo en el país existe, pero lógicamente la gente no te lo dice directamente. Pero son cositas tan pequeñas que se han reproducido siempre, ¿sí?
Yes, Colombia is a racist country, okay? It's less evident the racism is in some part of the country. We can see that the racism is stronger in the Caribbean region, Pacific region, Amazonian or Inakia region, where we can find more African American population. Okay. and it's a paradox, no? And we can say that yes, Colombia is a racist country, but it's not as evident this situation or this phenomenon in comparison with United States, because in Colombia we have only the 6% of the population represent the African Americans. Okay, that means like 3 millions of African Americans that we have in Colombia. Is a minority group. Okay, in United States is 50 millions. So that means they are 16% of the total population of United States. So that could make a huge difference in terms of policies and approximation and understanding of the population, of how the population, the whites and other ethnicities approach to the African American population. Our racism comes from the Spaniard colonialist period, okay? That I think has the same, that is equal for United States, no?
Me uno a lo que acaba de decir Clara, porque efectivamente es el racismo se siente en el país. Y creo que el movimiento que pasó, que está pasando en Estados Unidos, sí, tiene eco aquí de manera muy fuerte, y efectivamente de manera muy fuerte en la zona del Caribe y en Cartagena de Indias, porque como lo dijo también Clara, eso es historia, y que sabemos ya que desde el siglo XVI Cartagena era un port négrier, no sé cómo se dice, pero que por ahí pasaba efectivamente
un puerto negrero.
Un puerto negrero, se dice.
Un puerto negrero para llegada de esclavos y venta. Y creo que es algo efectivamente que yo al llegar sentí, pero no antes de eso en la alianza, es sobre todo a nivel cultural, como una de las misiones de la alianza es de promover la cultura francesa, francófona y también cartagenera. Entonces, ahí al momento de construir la agenda cultural y al encontrar artistas y gestores culturales, se sintió fuerte que la problemática de la afrocolombianidad, de todo una reflexión sobre la identidad afrocolombiana y reivindicación es algo fuerte, es un tema que sí se está hablando, se está tratando y que viene en la escena intelectual mucho.
Yeah, so my name is Takuzwa Winston Shoko, and I am from Zimbabwe. I did my undergrad in social work from 2015 to 2018. Then I went on to do my honors in social policy and management. During that time that I was doing my honors, I was doing my internship with Streetscapes, and then that's where I joined Street Uni, and I met Andrew and got into contact with IPSL. So it was quite an interesting journey for me, I guess, and I learned so much during that time.
My name is Andrew Hepburn Brown. I'm born and bred Cape Townian. My passion is people. I've spent my whole life working with people and finding what are the best ways to unleash the potential or to support people to reach their potential. I'm passionate about our continent, Africa, and during part of my journey in my career, I've been working with IPSL. So I'm the country director of the COSA, South African COSA course, and connected with Streetscapes. So right now I work with people from high school students all the way through to graduates in the IPSL COSA course.
It started we started thinking and kind of brainstorming around ways to, in the context of our professional work, which is global education and empowerment of communities to be kind of self-determining and self-empowered, to highlight some of the specific pedagogical approaches, the courses that we offer, and that we use as kind of modules to educate our students and to open their eyes and hearts to what's going on around the world. And there were a few courses that we teach already, that we have been teaching, that kind of jumped to the fore. And one of those courses is the course that Andrew and Ariane and I, and yes, they actually developed together. And so we wanted to talk a little bit about that. We wanted to talk about you, and we wanted to ask if you would be willing to give your perspective on kind of some of the goings on. We know from in our own country, kind of a lot of the voices, we're trying to listen as much as we can, but it would be really insightful, I think, for us to know what the conversation is in South Africa, because we know there are some parallels between the racial tension, the racial divides in your country and in ours.
The course, the South African COSA course that I and collaborated with a few people that have put together, really tries to be a very practical course. Practical in the sense of engaging with people, engaging with people of color, going into a township or to previously disadvantaged communities. So I find myself rather being the facilitator of helping people link with reality of what's around us. And I think that is, for me, the most important aspect of the course. I think also the learnings, because we're small, we're able to move and we're able to adapt. And it's important to have the ground knowledge, so to have a foundation of understanding of aspects of Africa, the movements of Africa, parts of the history, pre-democracy, so the apartheid regime and the atrocities that took place during there, but also looking at post-apartheid, the democracy of South Africa and where we are now and the struggles we have and continue to have. There's no way, because we're a democracy and we've got a world-class constitution, that we have that everything is fine. And I think people wanted it to be fine, and people got into comfort zones of it's all okay. You know, South Africa, we democracy and we've got a great constitution, and people got into that comfort zone. And because of that, we rested and we slowed down on the civil rights and the civil movements in our country. I think in many ways we rested. We started to look in other areas. Mm-hmm. So the whole COSA course is really looking at what are we still sitting with, the poverty that we sit with, connected with streetscapes and poverty and substance abuse. All of these marry together really well, and the COSA course looks at that.
With regards to the Black Lives Matter in Zimbabwe, it's probably not as hyped as it is in USA or probably here in South Africa, because of what history has done to the country, where we saw the land grab of from white minorities by black majority, and so this led to less population of white people in Zimbabwe. Mm-hmm. And so there hasn't been that evidence that much of white supremacy is evident as it is in other countries, particularly South Africa and Zimbabwe. So that's something that I can say is a bit different from the Black Lives Movement that would be in USA and in Zimbabwe. Yeah. Well, for South Africa, I think it has largely been about it's more of systematic racism as well, and it goes into it reaches out into economic structures of people of color, as well as like just structural racism where
people need hope for us to grow. We need some light to believe that tomorrow is going to get better. So as much as the COSA course goes through the history and even the current challenges, we also need to look at what are the positive areas that we can grow. And I think that is important for me in the COSA course, in the reflections of, number one, having the courage to seek out and to understand what our vulnerabilities are, that we are vulnerable, and because of that we hide. So I think that is one of the areas in the COSA course that comes out strongly, is reflection on self and our vulnerability. And I'm going to link vulnerability also to Black Lives Matter, not necessarily for people of color, but for white people, for Eurocentric people. It's understanding that we have built history, we have built our lives, a lot of the time through our own perceptions, in disregard to other people. And we are the center, and we have positioned ourselves. You only have to go onto Google and Google a picture, an image, and you will see that 90% of those images will be whites. So we have created this incredible world around us. And it's understandable that not everybody wants to seek out where they are vulnerable. So we've got to create safe spaces, not safe spaces to keep people in their comfort zones, but safe spaces where people can understand and unpack their vulnerability and question it. And I think that's also part of the COSA course. Having an American graduate coming out here and being able to engage in a completely different world, in a new world, not a world where they're going to come and save us. We don't need saving. We need engagement. We need unpacking. We need to understand that we actually are far more similar to each other, and we've got similar challenges. And how do we have dialogue to actually engage and understand and start seeking what are the answers? I don't sit here having the answers, and Takadzwa and you, Thomas, and the graduates that come here, we don't have the answers, but through the dialogue. And I think that is one of the elements of the COSA course that's I like to bring to the fore, of allow the reality that we find ourselves in to actually speak for itself. And in that moment, to start looking at engagement, understanding and breaking down the stereotypes and seeing different perceptions, and then start going into the area of, let's start finding the answers. What are they? And as I said earlier on about the hope, South Africa there has been a certain amount of transformation. Unfortunately, sometimes we move 3 steps forwards and 2 back. But there are elements in the COSA course that we need to recognize of the positives that have been made, and celebrate those. And on that ground, start building a hope of tomorrow is going to be better.
I was saying the really group of people of people from around Western Cape. Like it's a very diverse group, and mostly colored and black. So I think there are people that taught me a lot in terms of the understanding that they have towards life in general, towards diversity in general. Because when I was in streetscapes, I don't think I could have seen that these people realize that there's differences. Some people are colored, some people are black, and within that group, racial divide was not really of essence. In terms, you could see that whenever one person gets food, they're gonna share with the whole group. And that's one life lesson I think I learned from that group, that no matter what you have, as long as there's a whole bunch of people that are in the same situation with you, they are willing to get you out of it. If you're hungry today, you need to eat. If you're cold at last night, you need to warm up today. You need some coffee, you need something. So that's really something that I learned from them. And a remarkable thing is that you can realize that there's a lot of pain and a lot of stories that these people have, the clients have, and it's very interesting to get to learn from their stories as they are working. So you can tell that this person went through a certain kind of trauma as they work. They don't necessarily have to tell you, but you can tell from the way that you engaged with the person each and every day. So it's like stories that are open out there, and they're willing to learn from you, and they're open to teach you how they live life on the streets. So for me, that was quite an experience that I had, and I think it's an experience that we all need to have, because there's always those stereotypes that we have for people that are homeless, and saying this person is going to probably rob me, or this person is going to do this person is dirty. But you forget that aspect to say this is actually a human being, and you can have a full-on conversation, and you can learn a lot from that person. So I think that's one of the few things that I can talk about for people from the clients from streetscapes, the beneficiaries per se. Awesome. And it's relationships I actually miss up until today.
Thank you. And it's so interesting you talk about all that you learned from them, because when we think of volunteering or service to others, we think of us helping other people, of us informing others. And this is the beauty, I think, of service learning, is that it's actually quite frequently the other way around.
That's true.
You know, yeah, you can pitch in and help here and there and do this or that, but really, like, what you take away is so much more. It's so much more.
Yes. Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. I think I probably would have learned a lot of skills there than university. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe to tie a bow on our conversation, maybe each of you rather, could speak to, it's a big question, but it doesn't have to be too involved. But what is your hope? What is your hope for the future? Yes.
Thomas, can I just ask one thing? Maybe to Coursework, would you, in terms of Black Lives Matter, there's another aspect around white privilege, and maybe it's another element. I don't know how it fits in, or if there's even a question around it, or maybe the question I would like to Coursework to unpack perhaps, and maybe with, I don't know if you've got personal experiences, Taku, or just thoughts around it, when you hear of white privilege and the impact on white privilege on South Africa, on Zimbabwe, in the world of work. How do you picture that, and what are your thoughts around white privilege?
I think that one is a very important question, because for me personally, whenever we talk about white privilege and me being in South Africa, it just hits me that I am I am a foreign national in South Africa. I'm a Zimbabwean living in South Africa. And with past events that have been happening in South Africa, where there's xenophobia and there's just hate for another foreigner in Zimbabwe, in South Africa, sorry, is something that hits me with, if I'm to say, I don't know if I would term it as under the bracket of white privilege, but that's what comes to my mind when I say, so even when I am looking at it, if I am a white Zimbabwean national and I am in South Africa, I am less at risk of xenophobic attacks than I am a Black Zimbabwean in South Africa. So for me, that terms to be like white privilege when you are not a foreigner as long as you're white, no matter your nationality.
Yes.
So yeah, and it's something that is that I look at when I see white privilege while in South Africa, because whenever I go, wherever I go, I have to mind the fact that I'm Black and I cannot speak the language, so I'm a foreigner. But if I'm white and I cannot speak the language, I'm still, if I'm not from here, I'm a tourist and I'm not a foreigner per se. There's always been, there's been an example that has been happening that goes around where they're saying there's 2 houses burning, and then there's 2 houses, right? And then one of the houses is burning, and then the fire truck comes and starts to hose down the other house, the burning house, and then one person comes in like, hey, why are you like hosing down that house? Can you just come and hose down mine? But you'll be like, no, this one is the one that's in danger, that's burning, so we need to deal with this one. You can't say, yeah, but all houses matter because my house might burn, but it's not burning at the moment, so can we just focus on this house? We're not saying your house does not matter at all. We're just saying this one matters for now. So that is my understanding of that. And whenever somebody comes and says all lives matter, I think it for me, it comes out that way, where you're saying my house is burning, so my house does not matter, and we have to take care of your house. Yes, your house matters, but for now, I think let's deal with what is at hand. So that's how I think I just view the whole situation.